Hi, good morning. Welcome back to Mike Makes It. We're in the garage, and if you saw a previous video, you may have seen me cutting the safe door off my Land Rover. There's a little safe I had in there to put a dash cam and other valuables in when I'm away from the vehicle. But unfortunately, the lock failed, and the only way I could get access to the safe was actually to drill it out and remove the whole door. So today, what I'm going to do is make a new door up out of this bit of steel plate I've got, and put a few other bits and bobs together and put an electronic keypad on the door instead of a lock. So follow me, we'll go over to the bench, we'll start by cutting a new door for the safe. Right, now the front of the door is cut, what I want to do is replicate the hinge pins and the hinges. All they used initially, or originally I should say, is a piece of steel tube, a 16mm diameter, about 8mm down the middle, and they've threaded the end, I suspect 8mm tap, something along those lines. Now I found a bit of tube, which I'm going to recycle from the scrap bin. Is actually 16mm diameter, which is ideal, and the hole down the middle is actually bang on to the original hinge pin. So I'm going to take this over to the lathe, face the end off, thread it. I'm replicating this hinge exactly, putting a thread in the end, parting it off for the right length, ×2. Then I need to weld this hinge pin and hinge assembly in the right place on the door. I can't exactly get exact measurements because how I've chopped the old ones off, but I think if I tack it, make sure it's fairly close, then there we go, that's what we're going to be doing. So yeah, over to the lathe and a bit of TIG welding this morning. I think we're pretty much set up now for welding. Got one or two clamps there. What I've done on the door itself, I've run some square aluminium down at 90 degrees to the edge of the door, so I know the hinges are going to be square to the door, so to speak. And I've mounted them where I think they should go, 175mm from the long edge. So yeah, TIG welders here. We'll just tack it and try it in the truck, see if it fits. If not, start again. Right, there you go. I want to get on with the TIG welder, so I've swapped over to me MIG, and that's done me well, the Clark has, but that's another story, perhaps another video. But yeah, I'm very happy with how the tacks have come out there, and I've fitted it into the safe, and it's fine. It's in the right place. So what I'll do, I'll fully weld those hinges up. Then what we need to do here is fit a locking mechanism. Now I'm going to largely use what came out, but there's a little bit more welding got to be done here and a plate put in, but we'll see that in a minute. Well, that's the door welded up. Ain't the best weld, but it's going to be stronger than it actually was, I believe. Right, next thing to do is try to re-establish this locking mechanism. It seems simpler to try to refit this rather than start from scratch. Now you can see on the old door there's 4 bolts welded to the door itself, so I'm probably going to replicate that. I did think about cutting the bolts out with a chunk of metal on there so I wouldn't have to do any alignment, but I don't think we're going to have a big problem, because simply all I got to do is place that in a similar position, mark the holes, so I know where those bolts have got to be welded. So that's what I'm going to do now. But with the mechanism, it obviously goes that way round. I've got a couple of solenoids that I'm going to control with this mechanism. Digital lock, and it's also got the RFID keys to go with it, so I wouldn't actually have to put a number in if I didn't want to. I could use one of those keys. So that's where we're going now. You got the full picture, I think. So I'll go ahead, I'll mark some holes. Well, I'm not actually going to put holes in there, but I'm going to mark where I've got to weld the bolts. So that's what I'll do next. I've assembled the unit upside down, but that shouldn't be a problem. Well, we'll see if it's going to be a problem in a moment. But I've got 4 bolts, I've cleaned them up. All I'm going to do is tack weld them. I'm using this red assembly, the lock assembly, just as a guide for the bolt positions. Been quite careful how it's positioned is square, so as long as I can get a reasonable tack on those bolts, the 4 bolts in there, we should be good to go. So yeah, wish me luck. Here we go. Well, we'll let that cool off and see how it's done. Right, well that actually worked quite well. They're in the right position. The hood will fit over them. I just need to take a little bit of the weld off, or I may in fact just hack a bit out of the lock cover. But they're all in the right position, which is good. I did manage to weld the hood on in a couple of places, but I dremeled that off, so that can be cleaned up. But yeah, I'll finish welding the bolts on securely, give it a little clean up, then we'll come over to the locking mechanism and see how we can get that to work. Right, that cleaned up fairly well. Now, this is the cover for the original lock mechanism. And this is, you see that bit that used to live in there. So as you unlock the safe itself, those would retract. Now obviously the whole point of doing this is to replace a lock that was broken, so the plan is to have this moved back on a solenoid, which I have here all the way from Vietnam, eBay special. Now it's a little bit tight for space in this box, so to speak, because of the size of the solenoid, and there's only one point you can mount it. There's a couple of, looks like 4mm holes on the side which are threaded. So I think what I'm going to do is cut a place or a slot out of this moving mechanism, and the solenoid can fit over that and can bolt to the red plate. Let me take that out. Effectively the solenoid's going to be mounted like so, with the plunger over the top of it. That way this will be bolted to the red plate, and the nose of the solenoid, it won't actually hook over there, but it will fix to the tab that's already on there. So as you engage a solenoid, it'll pull a plate back. The solenoid won't be trapped to the silver plate there, it'll be attached to the red because of the cutout, as I said earlier. So that's what I'm going to do now, is mark up the plunger mechanism, chop a piece out with a Dremel, mount the solenoid to the red box, and we should be okay. We should be over to the electronics then. So yeah, here we go. Okay, I've made some progress. Solenoid's fitted in there. You can see you've got this mechanism going on, or action going on. We just fire it up to power supply. Here we go. That's the action I want, but that's for 28 volts going up it. Now sadly my truck runs on 12, so I'm gonna have some issues. It was apparently a 12 to 24 volt solenoid, but when you put on 12 volts, well, we're on 28 volts at the minute. Okay, feed in the solenoid, but I can fairly easily overcome the power, if I'll call it power, of the solenoid very easily. Now if I drop that down to 12 volts, give or take, on the power supply, look, so that's no good. I've already been locked out once for me safe. I don't want to have a second go at that. We got 12 volts on the power supply, and have a look. Just press that tab. Not good. Now I've been locked out of the safe once already, so I'm not happy about being locked out for a second time. So I'm going to have to come up with something else. Either another solenoid, which would be handy if it was the same footprint, because that's all made now, isn't it? That's all in there. So that would be quite, in my book, quite a good implementation. That'll fit over here onto the base. Away you go. I don't think it's going to be though. Let's just get that back on the bench. Now, there's, as I said, get another one of those, but I had a job getting this, so I'm going to have a problem, I think. However, looking through the Emporium, I've got one of these used to open doors on a remote control, and that'll pull you over. I don't know about opening the safe there. That got some pull on it. So I think the Mark II version of my door lock is going to incorporate this devil, but he is a bit bigger. That's the problem if you compare the two. But that's what it's going to be, I think. I'm not going to get locked out of the second time, so I'll have a look on eBay. If I can't get another one of these that's very much more powerful and will run on 12 volts, this is going in. So the magic of filmmaking, 2 seconds time, you'll know the result. In my timeline, it'd be 2 weeks, but yeah, hang on. Well, there you are, an unfinished prototype. I've done a bit of edge scratching, and we've managed to fit the big solenoid in underneath this plate. So that is effectively, the door could go all back together. There's a lot of finishing to do on it. But if I just hold this down, because it's not bolted together yet. Well, let me turn that. It might be a bit more interesting. Hold it down. So that actually works quite well. The solenoid takes over 6 amps, so it's a little bit heavy duty compared to the last one. Let me just turn the power off so you don't see any big flashes going on. I'll just take the lid off, you can see what's happening. This is the bigger solenoid. I've had to make a little bit more headroom, so I've slipped down the back, shaped it to the solenoid. Get it in shot for you. Shaped it to the solenoid there. There's the old mechanism that was the original. That's had a little bit of chopping around underneath to allow the arms to go over the solenoid. There's a return spring mounted in here, so when you drop the power off the solenoid, that returns and the safe will lock. There's a couple of brackets, you know, a few nuts and bolts. So that's all done. Works on a steel wire. It was meant for door popping, etc., and that's what I used it for actually in an old car I had, but repurposed, and it should be okay. I'm going to test the reliability of it before I lock the truck up finally, because I don't have to cut the door off again. But this is largely the mechanical work done, so that can go off to paint. And what I need to do now is read the book of words that came with this. This is what I showed you at the start of the video. This combination lock stroke RFID detector. So it's a nice little unit. I think that's going to end up going on top of the door in the safe. That's going to be the most practical place to put it. So it'll go something like that on the safe door. So yeah, like I say, I'll go read the book of words. I'll do a little bit of wiring, and I'll bring you back when it's when I've got a working unit on the bench. This is a electronic lock I want to use on the safe. I bought it a few years ago when it cost me £28. It really is a robust lock. There's many features on it which I'm not going to use. There's a full book of words that comes with it. But all I simply wanted to do is engage a relay that'll fire the solenoid off, so I could open the door. A few seconds later the solenoid releases, because I don't want to be drawing 6.5 amps from the battery for too long. The only disadvantage of that is when I want to close a safe, I've got to put the same pin number in just to engage a lock, close the door, and it'll re-engage. But that's not a problem. This is how lock would normally work, in the sense of the lights flashing and the blue background being illuminated, as you can see, which would be handy in the dark. Before you can do anything, when you want to program it, you've got to put a master code in. Now the default master code, which I'm going to change in a few minutes, I'll enter that. You do star 6 9s 1 2 3 4 5 6 and the hash key. Now the red light stopped flashing. I'm in programming mode. So if I want to add a user for a pin number, which I'm going to do, firstly you've got to press the number 1, then an identification number for the user, so we'll say 76. Then I put the pin number in, so I need to press hash. Let's say the pin number is going to be 8686. Hash again. Green light flash for a moment. It's happy. We're still in programming mode, so I could carry on putting extra users in, but I don't want to put anybody else in. So I'm going to press the hash key, the star key, and the star key again, and I've come out of programming mode. Now all I need to do, just to prove it worked, put the same number in again, the pin number, then press the hash key. So 8686 hash, light comes on, relay engaged, I can open the door. A few seconds later that'll go off. Now one advantage of this, you can also program it with the RFID keys. Now I already programmed this one. Just swipe it across, bang, off it goes. A few seconds, goes off. Now I've got a bag of these over here. We'll program one of these up. This one isn't programmed to the lock, as you can see. Similar sort of principle. We've got to go into the master programming code. So star 1 2 3 4 5 6 9s and a hash. We're in programming mode. Now to add a card, I've got to press 1, get it to read the card, then hash. And that's done. If I wanted to do another load of cards, I would just continue that sequence. But I finished, so I'm going to come out of programming mode. So it's start, there you go, we're back out, and we'll see if this key works. It didn't a second ago. There. So it's relatively as simple as that. There's a lot of functions I say I'm not going to use. This is all I need. So now I know how to do it. I'm going to reset this to a master default, put in the user numbers I need and the codes, and fit it to the safe door. So we'll go back to the garage in a moment and screw this to the door, fit the door to the van. Job's a good one. Well, there you go. There's a lock attached to the door. All I need to do is attach the door to the truck. So we're going to do that, but let's just turn this over so you can see the back side of it. A little bit of wiring going on. This umbilical will go off to the safe that'll disappear into the truck for the power. On the end of it you've got a relay. Although the electronics in the lock should have been able to cope with the current, because the solenoid drawing about 6.5 amps, a little bit high on my book, so hence a relay. But I'll just show you it working with one of these RFID tags. Just swipe that in the front. You can hear the clonking noise, and you'll see the solenoid. There you go. Do it one more time. There. So then go back in the truck, and I'll show you when it's in there. Right, there's the old tatty cubby box in my truck, and there's a safe. In an earlier video you may have seen me cutting this open because a lock had failed on it. Well, we're going digital now, so got this whole combination lock put in. RFID chip, all modern things. There we go. Open the door. You get me dash cam, whatever else I got in there, and it's all nice and safe. I can quite happily put the dash cam in there, lock the safe up, and walk away from it. Hopefully knowing it's still going to be here when I come back. But there you go, all locked up safe. So anyhow, thanks for watching the video. It's a little bit longer than I thought it might be, but please subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.